Welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, where we take on the most pressing issues affecting Black America. I am your host, Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell, and with me today are New York Times bestseller Caleb Alexander, community activist and entrepreneur Chris Dawkins. Our fourth panelist, author and screenwriter Fred Williams is not with us, yet we do miss him and we can't wait for him to come back. April is National Minority Health Month. This annual observance builds awareness about the health disparities that persist among racial and ethnic minorities and encourages everyone to take action to end these inequities. This year's theme, Be the Source for Better Health. With that in mind, today's topic should have a lot more discussion within the Black community, and that is Black men and prostate cancer. Since this year alone, renowned Black men have either died or undergone treatment for this cancer. O.J. Simpson died at age 76. Louis Gossett Jr. died at age 87. Dexter Scott King died at 62. And Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin received treatment to a prostate-related surgery. 1 in 6 men will develop the disease in their lifetime, with Black men being 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed and 2.1 times more likely to die from the disease compared to white men. So today I have a special panel guest and friend, Dr. Tim Wesley. He has agreed to come on and share his prostate awareness journey, insights, and personal recommendations. So before we get started, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so that you can get notice to our shows. So, welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, Tim.
All right, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So, the first time I was even aware that you were going on this journey is when I saw you on my Facebook feed, and you had this really moving testimony of your journey. So, what moved you to put yourself out there and tell your story?
Well, one of the things moved me is that by telling a story about prostate cancer, it can save lives. And a lot of people may not be aware. It doesn't have a specific look. We see people like Dexter King. We see people like O.J. Simpson, Louis Gossett Jr. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, education status. It hits all of us. As you notice with your intro, we're 2.1 times more likely to die of prostate cancer versus white men. So for me, it was a matter of telling my story. You notice that I didn't put it out until it was done. I'm a man of faith as well. So one of the things I'm a minister. And so as a person of faith, I wanted to wait until I got to a point where I was able to tell the testimony to get through the test. And more importantly, just bring awareness to it because Black men don't think it's going to be me. One of the things O.J. Simpson said, which kind of caught my ear, I looked at a previous video from a few months ago. He said he caught cancer. You know, we know we don't just catch cancer, right? Mm-hmm. And so that told me it's about the education process as well. So I knew that with the platform I had on Facebook, there's going to be a ton of Black men out there that are going to be watching and say, Dr. Tim Wesley had prostate cancer. He's gotten through prostate cancer. If he can get this, then I need to be aware. And one other point I'll make is that just having personal conversations with Black men, I've had several of them to go and get checked for prostate cancer, several to go and get their blood work done. And I knew that if I can do this in a small segment of people I'm communicating with one-on-one, what can happen if I have thousands of people, which I do, that's following on social media, to get that awareness, to say, hey, maybe I need to listen to what this guy is saying and get myself checked.
So I'm going to use this statement lovingly. This is not an old man's disease.
No, not at all. And the reason I say that, just to kind of put this thing in perspective, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor now. I was diagnosed with bladder cancer back in 2018. At that time, for that particular cancer, typically you had to smoke, work around chemicals, be Caucasian, or 55 years older. I met no category. I had 2 doctors, one with 27 years experience, one with 28 years experience. Between the 2 of them, they said I'm only the 4th case. And so that did not have an age requirement. When it comes to prostate cancer, I started getting my prostate checked because of how many of you remember the show Good Times?
Yeah.
Good Times, right? I remember watching an episode of Good Times, and Michael Evans was talking to his father, James Evans, right? He's talking to him, and he said, Dad, he was talking to him about prostate cancer. He said, you know, that's one of the number one killers of black men in the United States. And so for me, I remember that episode. So as a young man, I knew that episode was going to be something to stick with me. So when I got out of the military and I was in my mid 30s, I knew then I need to get my prostate checked because it kills black men. That's why I go back to the consciousness of television shows. They matter. What we're showing matters. And so for me, that stuck with me. I had a doctor say, hey, you're not at that age yet. We typically don't start checking prostates until you're around 50. I looked him in his eye. He was an Asian doctor. I said, sir, but it kills black men at a rapid rate. He says, you're right. Let's go ahead and check the prostate. So I got it checked. So I knew about prostate exams, and I knew to get them checked and get them checked early. Even though they say wait until this age, for us as black men, that may be too late. Because for me, what was alarming, I had no symptoms at all. People think with cancer, you're going to have all these symptoms. I was in Hawaii for a time, and I remember getting off the plane in Hawaii, September 2022. I had some sciatic nerve pain happen, and I didn't know what it was. I came back from Hawaii, went to see my primary care physician. As I go in, he says, hey, why are you here? You know, it's about that time to look at your prostate. I was like, you're right, because I want to get it checked anyway. And so we did two things. And if I don't say anything that you remember this. I was a person as a pastor that went to churches at times. I would go and talk to men about prostate exams, about getting them and getting them off and making sure they get it checked. But I only knew about, at the time, the physical prostate exam, in-office exam. That's not enough. So I'll tell you why. And again, this is probably one of the most important things I'll say. As I went to my doctor, he said, let's get blood work done. I said, okay, let's do it. Do the blood work. And after we did the blood work, within about 24 hours, this is with the VA, Audie Murphy VA. I have that as one place of care, and I have private insurance, and I have a doctor on the outside. So I get the blood work done, and all of a sudden, I'm getting phone calls after phone calls within about 24 hours. My phone's blowing up. I get a message saying that I have a secured message in my email, which I didn't know they can even send the secured messages. And this is all within about an hour. And so I said, something's wrong. So I opened it up, and they said, you need to get back to the hospital. So I go back to the hospital and find out that my PSA scores, and so I'm going to throw a lot of information out quickly, but the PSA scores, you know, if you're at 2 or 4, you may be okay. Anything above 4, you're in some trouble. They're going to start looking. So my PSA score, which is the prostate score that they're looking at, prostate-specific antigen. That's what the PSA is for. And it's something that they look within your blood, and they see if you're having issues with the prostate. So 2, you're okay. Get to 4, they're concerned. 4 to 10, definitely an alarm. You probably got some stuff going on. Mine was at 22, just to put it in perspective. So my doctor said, there's no way. Let's run it again. No, it was at 24. Let's run it again. We ran it again. 24 hours later, it goes from 24 to like 28. It's like, wait, something's wrong. You need to get to the doctor or the urology and let them do a prostate exam and all this. So the point I'm getting to, I said all that to say this. They did the in-office prostate exam. Perfectly normal. Nothing going on. Oh, this is perfectly normal. You have nothing, no issues here. So at that point, I'm thinking, what about all the men I told to go and get prostate exam? And all they did was the in-office exam. And the doctor told
The physical exam.
The physical exam, thank you, sir. Oh, you're good. Your physical exam is good. So here it is. I'm a living example that even though I got a physical prostate exam, which they recommend you do, and I still recommend to get done, I was walking around at that time, in hindsight, I was walking around with prostate cancer, even though the physical exam said I was good, the blood said I wasn't. So the main point, if you're going to go and get your prostate exam done, you're only doing half the battle. You have to get the blood work done. Do not leave a doctor's office without letting them get the blood so they can check your PSA. Because if you do, You can literally be walking around with prostate cancer with a good physical prostate exam, and walking around as a ticking time bomb.
So, Doc, I know you told me at the very beginning that you were a PhD.
Yes.
But for this purpose, I guess you're going to be an MD. Okay.
I'll give some advice, but it won't be medical advice.
Right. I
It'll be
understand.
personal, but yes,
I
sir.
understand.
Yes, sir.
So, is there anything, you've studied this, do you know of any symptoms that somebody might have, even though the physical exam you said was perfectly normal?
Yeah.
Would there or could there be any type of telltale signs that somebody may be able to use to know that they definitely need to have their prostate checked?
They could have some, one is urinary frequency. So if you all of a sudden you start getting the urge to urinate multiple times per day, more so than you've seen normally, we're talking maybe 2-3 times per hour. That could be a sign. If you're starting to have different pains in your back and things of that nature, that could be a sign. And so I'll kind of hit on the urinary frequency. One of the things that they'll do, that's kind of telltale sign, something's going on within the prostate. It could be an enlarged prostate, so the doctors will look at that and they'll probably treat you for that. And there are medical regimens that they will probably have you go on for about 30 days to see if that's going to be the case. But there are several. I don't know all of them off the top of my head because I didn't have any symptoms. So I did look at the symptom list, but I will tell your viewers and listeners that if they simply go to Google and put down in the Google search prostate cancer symptoms, it's going to yield them a list of about 17, somewhere around 15, 17. So it's several of them out there. But a lot of times, as the doctors told me, many men won't have symptoms. That's why it's known as the silent killer. And so I do want to highlight that even though we'll see those symptoms, the majority of men will never have those symptoms. And that's why it's a silent killer. Many Black men, they don't find out that they died of prostate cancer, at least the families, until after they've done an autopsy. And then they find out, okay, this person died because of prostate cancer. And so they see it at that point.
Let me give you, for the audience, especially full disclosure, I have an enlarged prostate. And those symptoms that you talked about were symptoms that I began having. And like you, I didn't know what was actually going on. And even going to my primary care, having the blood test, the PSA was fine, everything was fine. I was not having any issues, but I have a separate company who annually I take a blood test, which is down in Florida. And they were the ones who detected, which had me to go in. Actually, it was testosterone being low, which allowed me to go to the urologist. And from going to the urologist, that's where they found I had the enlarged prostate. Now, the enlarged prostate, for me, they were saying, of course, I don't have prostate cancer, but I have the enlarged prostate. And just as a side note, because of the crazy health care in this country, I was supposed to have and went through all the tests for Medicare and everything else that was necessary, had everything, all the tests ready to do last year, ready to have it done. And guess what happened? They dropped my insurance. Okay. So I couldn't have it and I couldn't go there. So now we're still, we're going into May, 5 months later, and we're still trying to get this taken care of from a standpoint of finding somebody else. I don't want to go through the test again. So I would need to have somebody who will take those tests and then be able to do what's necessary to be able to shrink the prostate so that I'm back to normal.
Before we get started with this next conversation, we're going to go ahead and put a pause and come back to a needed discussion. See you in a few.